agree with you completely, but here's where I think it falls apart. We could go and say, I mean, this is just somebody who wants a 2-story house, they're going to say, I don't think that that's enough of a disincentive. In other words, reducing the FAR for lots over 20,000 square feet. Notice the square footage above and reducing it from 20% to 19% isn't enough of a disincentive. And what I'm afraid is that somebody's, the house is going to get smaller, and they're going to want they're going to say, build a 2-story, and I want it wide. In other words, it's not going to, I think we can achieve, I don't think that what the mayor is proposing, and with all respect to him, I can just picture people saying, I want a 2-story house, and I want it to be massive. Like I said, these towns out west, 1-story, general store, and they just build, they just put a facade up that goes 2 stories, and they make it because they want their store to be as impressive as possible. We're going to have a town that looks like the Wild West. I mean, with these, that's my fear.
In the context of trying to accomplish the goals of the mayor's goal, do you have any thoughts about how we would create incentives or disincentives for maintaining the current character of these 2 core districts?
I think
characterized by predominantly 1-story
houses. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know how. I mean, other than saying 2-story houses aren't allowed, I don't know. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that for somebody who wants to build this impressive house with a massive, with a 2-story part that goes as far apart as, that goes from one end to the other to make it look as big. It doesn't matter how deep it is. They want it in the front, and they want their house to look big. That's what we're trying to get rid of. In other words, I don't think we can say you can't build a 2-story house. And I don't think that what's being proposed.
No, we're not proposing. It wasn't going to be a prohibition. It was trying to create
an incentive to
directional.
Yeah.
But I think Bill Wietzman had a very good idea. Instead of saying that the 2nd floor had to be 75% of the 1st floor, cut it back to 60.
But see, the thing is that you can still, even at 60%, you can still go all the way out to the side of the property line.
And cut it back to 60 and make the setback additional.
Yeah, that's the one thing I think that we really make an additional setback. I think that's
by the way, I do agree with those 2 dimensions. The extent that we're getting away from what I think was the goal. The extent what you're saying, we're going to have 2-story. I think are we coming to the conclusion that we're unable to develop a formula, an approach to disincent 2-story buildings and incent 1-story. I mean, I want to stay on that as long as we can.
Yeah. Okay, no, I'm with you.
And to the extent that we're unable to really address that subject, let's go to solutions to the extent that there's going to be 2-story buildings.
Well, you have to give people the opportunity. I mean, it's their property. If they want to put a 2nd story on, they are allowed.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's a pretty big disincentive if you limit the size of that 2nd story. All of a sudden it becomes, well, is it in fact worth it to put that 2nd story on?
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Can I throw in about sort of, and obviously speaking from Placer Soleil's perspective, because that's the area I know particularly well, they're very small lots. I mean, it says in here up to 15,000, but then it says 13 to 15,000 square foot. I can speak, mine's 12,500, like the lot I'm on. Do we not want to incentivize people to use, if we stayed at 33%, to use as much of that on the ground level? It's Bill's point. The 15-foot setback, you can't see it. You can't see the ground. You want to try and get.
Yeah, no, that's right.
If you like, you've got this much of, that's your FAR of 33%. By pushing it back another 2 feet on each side, to 17 feet, we're squeezing it up. And what you're saying, I've got it correctly here, Hewlett, we want to try and keep it down. And if you've used the majority on the ground, then you've only got a certain amount of pie. So if we get it to ground where it can't be seen, and then take the point that was raised, and Curtis, you mentioned again, of reducing the amount on the second floor, the percentage of the footprint. Is that not does that not, am I being naive probably, does it not control? Because they've only got so much in the pie, right?
Yeah.
We want it on the ground, we don't want it up in the air. That's what, what are we actually trying to achieve here? And we're trying to stop the what's it, massing?
Yeah.
And the overlooking.
Right.
And if we can get, there's only a certain amount of pie left to go on that second floor, and we encourage the setbacks, which gets rid of the massing, there's only a certain amount of pie you can use.
Right.
I think the setback, I think reducing the ground setbacks on the second story encourage people to put more of it up in the roof. Is that
Can I-
not correct? Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I think if you reduced it down to 30% on the second story, you potentially could be dealing with the same issue
That's
on
it.
a street level. Do you understand what I mean?
No. No.
It could go over to one side, it could take and envision the house at, say, Lakeview and Gulfstream Road. 30% square footage could be located over on,
Could we address that with the setback,
Continue.
yeah, it's a lot of things here.
Yeah.
First of all, keep in mind that what you do, any changes that you make to minimize square footage will affect taxable values in the core and the district area. It will affect taxable value because you're taking away square footage. That taxable value, parlayed over 20 years, it is actually cumulative because most people don't build a house every 10 years or every 5. It's a cumulative effect on the taxable value going forward. Now, that is just a word of thought, thinking what you do could affect the way that the town is able to operate financially in the future. Now, we are here, in my opinion, discussing these things because of 2 homes that have, or partly here. And the mayor he put this out for us to discuss. He gave us a starting point for discussion, but 2 homes have failed us. And what we have presently in our town, to me, is beautiful. It's beautiful because of, in my opinion, our boards, but also because of the architects. We have some very fine architects. But I believe that you can do away with all of this discussion, and you can handle what has occurred by simply utilizing the codes that exist. Now, we failed on 2 homes. Staff failed. I suggest ARP may have,
Yeah.
commission may
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
It passed citizen review, it passed. The question I have is, how did that happen?
Well, I think
What
because,
went wrong in our review process? What did I do wrong? And is there something that can be created that sort of situation never occurs again? Because the centrally massing, the terms that we have, if you are bold enough to work on those generalities and to control the town based on those generalities, which is your right, I think that should not, and I believe it would not happen again.
well, I think your summation is perfect. It just, the central mass, I pulled all those things together on the one sheet, all of this first part.
That central mass.
This is scattered throughout, 60 pages of the design manual, all these things. They're not all on one page. They don't read like this. These
No,
are
but
scattered throughout the
Human,
manual.
for example, 70-66 uses the term generally. You're going to be argued against by architects and perhaps owners that says that's very vague. Are you willing to stand on that vagueness to control?
I do, I've said this before and I'll say it again, that the extent that we can set expectations in a quantitative terminology, the architect is better off, the homeowner, and so are we, because everybody knows what the ground rules are. When it's qualitative, it might be viewed as vague, and it becomes more challenging. Not that we can't exercise our judgment vis-a-vis this quantitative language, because in fact, there's a set of criteria that when we approve or disapprove something, it includes language that's in keeping with the current, et cetera, et cetera. But I do strongly encourage when we can to put it into some quantitative terms so that, when people say, oh, this is what I can do, it's black and white. To the extent it doesn't compromise, and I think you used the term, Mr. Thrasher used the term creative. I mean, we don't want to stifle, we don't want to have cookie cutter, et cetera, et cetera. So quantitative is better. One other observation I wanted to make with regard, for the record, I heard Mr. Thrasher's concern, and being a financial guy, I certainly understand his point. I debate in my mind the subject of value. I think of value sometimes in this town is there's more value with less.
Yes.
And people, people want to build the big homes, as Weitzman said. I'm not going to buy here because it's not what we encourage. So I'm not sure that I would necessarily agree that less square footage means less economic value to the town.
Well, that would be great if we controlled the value that is being assessed, but we don't. We do not.
We do, yeah.
But isn't a value based on comparables?
It can be based on that, but you look at their website, the primary motivator is air-conditioned space or square footage.
Oh,
Yeah, I
Now,
think
if we had that control, that'd be great, but
okay. Well,
we are in the hands of somebody else when it comes to tax
I
values.
didn't realize that.
Can I just make one point about the, whereas intuitively limiting the size of the second floor, the percentage that can go on the second story would work, but here's what happens. Well, once again, I think Bill makes an excellent point. Isn't all this already in the code? But then we get to the point, was generally, words like generally are tough to work with. But central massing, I mean, to me, I think that this one house in particular that was built, the second story massing, it wasn't in the middle, this isn't the lot, but it wasn't in the middle of the lot. The second story massing is here.
Yes.
And the one story section is actually
Yes.
at the neighbor over here. And that's the thing. Central massing means, this 2-story part has to be in the middle, central. I don't know how.
Central.
It's very clear. But we just have to enforce it, central. That's it. It means in the middle. And I don't think it makes any difference if the second story is limited to 20, 25%, 30, 40%. I don't think, as long as it's in the middle, it doesn't have an effect on the neighbors, it doesn't have an effect on the street, because you're getting it in the middle of the property. Except for the front. I mean, but you do have to have enough setbacks this way that there's no massing from the sides, there's no massing from the neighbors. And then it is traditional to have a 2-story middle section. I think that further limiting the percentage that can be on the second floor isn't as productive as saying it has to be in the middle. And that's where we really have to go. And I think that the town manager, Bill, makes an excellent point. And Rita, I don't know how you feel about this, that if maybe what we need, the tools we need are already in the book, but they're just spread out over 60 pages, that it doesn't make an impact on the applicant or the architect. you know, and you know, these architects, they come in and they say, well, it's gonna make everything cookie cutter. These architects, they know exactly, I mean, if they design a cookie cutter house, they're not gonna have any clients. The client's gonna bring in somebody else. We have to control the massing. And then also, I mean, the architecture has to fit within the town. I'm saying all the, you know, all the fenestration, the doors, the windows, the balconies, the eaves, the roof, all that sort of stuff. That's a different part. I think what we're talking about here is strictly the form. How do we control the space that the house takes in the lot, the location of the house in the lot, and the massing, the massing of the house. That is what this all boils down to. You know, you could build a house, you know, this house that's so big that has all the massing here. The house could be a bigger house, but if the massing was back here,
It wouldn't have an effect.
you wouldn't know. You would think it's a 15,000 square feet. Right now, it looks like a 30,000 square foot house with all the massing up here. But with the massing back here, all of a sudden, the impact is reduced. We have to reduce the impact, and we have to do that through the massing. And all this, you know, the two architects who are here saying, well, that's, you know, tying our hands. It's not tying our hands. And Mr. Wietzma is a very, I mean, he is a very, you know, I think he's a wonderful guy to work with, isn't he, Rita?
Yeah, oh, yes.
And he's very reasonable and thoughtful, and he's designed.
And he's built some great houses.
And he's built some great houses. And the structure, the massing is all the same. 1 story like this, 2 story like this, but the front, I mean, he has done some things that have been the same. And, you know, he even said he has a new girl doing his design work now. But, you know, but all that can be controlled with the way you do the balconies, the windows, the doors, the eaves, the step backs. I mean, you know, but we just have to control the massing. And how we do that, and I didn't mean to, I mean, I think the mayor has some excellent suggestions, but when somebody wants a 2-story house, I don't think that this is enough of a disincentive. No, there's incentives and disincentives, except for the special exception we have where we have the outdoor. That seems to work, you know, allowing more outdoor area. That seems to work. But the incentives and disincentives that we've put in place over the past couple of years, I don't think they've worked. I mean, I've been away for.
Well, we're taking them out.
We're taking them out, so they haven't worked.
Right.
And I think this is just more disincentives than they work.
Let's, may I
Yes, Dan?
suggest we go in this flow?
Yeah.
And
Thank you all for listening.
So, please.
I'm a new guy on the block. I'm a little confused why we're talking about possible changes to the FAR or to the setbacks in the first place. I mean, because I think the code, I think what I've heard is, as written, the manual has served us pretty well, and in the 2 instances where people have reacted negatively to what was approved and built, maybe wasn't so much a fault of the manual, you know, as it was the oversight of people that were involved in the process. Reality, real estate, all lots are different. And when you start talking about combining lots, that creates new issues that maybe wasn't originally contemplated when, you know, when it was originally platted. But that's not what we're talking about here, you know. And we all understand that in areas of the town where the lot sizes are relatively smaller, that when you go up higher, particularly when you go straight up, you know, that presents a potential burden on the adjoining properties. But I'm not sure why we need to be changing 20% to 19% or, you know, 15 to 17%. It seems to me to be fine tuning of a nature that maybe just rearranging deck chairs. I think we've already got the tools that we need in the manual. And maybe just weren't applying the design standards, setting the expectations clear enough.
Sam, this is.
No,
this-
that's, okay.
This is, okay, so this is what I
Your
think,
turn.
this is what's
Are you-
happening, I
are you
just wanted to
finished?
respond to what you said, is that I think what happens is, you have architects like Bill Wiesman, who take the design manual and they design to that approval, they come in to see the staff, and they're in conformity to the staff, and say, we make a recommendation, you know, and then base the recommendation on the design manual to us, and then we to the town. What happens is you get people who want what they want, and they walk in the door, they walk in through that door, and if anybody says that, well, we don't feel that your design is in keeping with the design manual, they erupt, okay? It's not, you know, you're just dealing with different personalities. They want it, and by gosh, you know, I'm gonna have this my way. And, you know, we don't want the staff to have to deal with that sort of thing. It would be nice just to have a number, well, you know, here's the calculation or whatever. But this has been something I've been trying to sort of think in my mind is that, you know, just the fact that Bill and Rita and the staff have to make a recommendation to us, you know, because if they just say, if you all just collected the information and say, the decision is gonna be made by the Architectural Review and Planning Board, and then from the Architectural Review and Planning Board, because we just make a recommendation to the commissioners. I mean, I just like to see the heat taken off the staff, because, I mean, that's one thing that I'd like to see, perhaps, on a level 3 application on a brand new house, is that Bill, Rita, you guys don't have to make a recommendation whether to approve or disapprove. You just say, here's the design manual, you can give us whatever you want, but when you walk in the door to the Architecture Review Board, you know, you better make sure that it's in keeping with the design manual, or else they're gonna reject it. But by you having to make a recommendation to approve or disapprove on a, you know, I mean, I think there are times, I don't know if that's something that you want to,
No,
I don't know how you feel about that.
I think that staff should make a recommendation, but staff must also realize that the ARPB and the commission, the ARPB may not agree with us,
May
and so
agree,
what?
yeah.
And the commission may not agree with us, and that'll make a difference, but again, so what? You
Okay.
have to have a point of reference and a starting point.
Yes, I agree with that.
I agree with that too, because,
Yeah.
because they also, you do the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
You know, we get these documents and have a few days to go over them, but to pour through the entire manual, you know, first of all, you two know the manual far, far better than we do, I believe.
I think that
Well,
also.
we're gonna get better.
Yeah, but that also brings a level of consistency in terms of what the staff do.
Yes, absolutely.
And we change, I mean, obviously there's a core of us, but we change people away. So if you like, that initial decision on our point can't really change with the vagaries of the composition of the board.
But,
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Let me comment.
But and believe me, I mean, what I was saying just didn't, I mean, I just didn't know, you know, if you wanna go through the fraught with the decision, you know, with having to say, well, this, you know, and I understand completely, I mean, I think that we work very well together, the commissioner, the ARPB, and staff all work very well together, but just from the client's view, or from a an architect's view especially, you know, if that, you know, how that dynamic works, and you know.
These two houses, there was an error there, that's all there is to it, and I started it. But I do believe that you should have the capability to spot something of that nature.
Yes, yes,
And-
I agree with that.
And so
Absolutely.
the system failed.
Mhm.
In looking at it, would I have made that same recommendation today? There's not a prayer that I would have, and I would have used that section of the code to at least point it to you. I don't think there's anything that you can do to do away with second-story houses. They're there, they're going to exist. But I do believe that in these two areas, that the reduction of the second story from 70 to 60 makes a lot of sense.
Okay, let's keep going. I want to make one comment about the administration of the design manual. I think the way it functions today is effective. I think we all can get better at it, and this board, as Mr. Thrasher highlighted, you can't expect staff always to get it totally right. I don't get it totally right.
Oh, yeah.
And we need to be a little more proactive in exercising our judgment as relates to the manual. So the extent that we get better, the process gets better. So enough on that on my end. Let's stay on, so let me sort of narrow the discussion. I think we started with a proposal. I'm hearing generally, starting with the public, with Mr. Weitzman, that these incentives or disincentives as proposed aren't workable, they're not going to accomplish the goal. Having said that, meaning we're going to have two-story buildings. I think, is that the conclusion? Okay.
Yeah.
The next question is, if we're going to have two-story homes, here's some revisions to the current language that we should propose that could deal with the second story. And so I'd like to go to that now and see if we have a proposal that we can bring to the commission.
Well, that's what I thought we had been addressing, the fact that there
No,
was
but what is it?
75%
Yes,
on the
yes.
second floor, that potentially
What
one
should-
issue, it should be reduced.
Okay, make a proposal. So what do you think? 60?
So, and to go from 75 to 60, I'm
No,
not sure that
It's
that's,
70 now.
okay, to go from 70 to 60, I'm not sure if that is in fact the correct ratio, but I think it at least is a step in the right direction. And to, you know, but I don't think you necessarily need to curtail you don't need to curtail the setback, because if it is centrally massed, going from 70 to 60 is going to set it back. That will naturally set it back.
Yeah, but it is, I guess the question is that language strong enough? In other words, is that something, Bill, that you can
Well,
that you
I
can
can
work
give
with?
my opinion, and
That's-
I can
Yeah.
reference that in the staff report.
Because that
If
is-
you do reduce that amount down, how do you define centrally massed? And that will have to come from you guys.
Yeah, and
I mean, I can make a
Yeah,
recommendation.
The basis is the
what
X
it
and Y
looks like.
axis, and you know,
What it
72,
looks like.
I mean, it doesn't get any more basic than that, okay.
Well, I think to me, this is the property.
Yeah.
Is that this two-story massing has to be in the
In
middle.
the
It can't
center.
be-
But it's-
It can't be,
Yeah.
Well, it says generally,
Yeah.
and centrally.
Generally in the center.
I think that somebody, an architect that we've seen here that has produced different architects that produce different quality, very good quality designs, probably need to have a certain amount of flexibility, the shifting.
And they do.
You know what you're looking for.
Central does not mean 100% central.
1-to-1,
However,
y-axis.
And you're always gonna get architects who are gonna say, you are telling me what my client has to like.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. The case is that we're telling them what the community in general tends to like, and we don't want to put up houses within the community that are gonna be disliked by the balance of the community. That hurts property values too.
Let me talk about the,
did you?
I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
what,
oh, sorry, please.
my position is basically, I don't see the FAR, the reason to change that. I'm going with, I think, a lot of the conversation here in terms of, I don't see the setbacks changing, because the ground floor isn't pushing. We have to make sure that we enforce this centrally located, central massing. That would, I mean, as you said, Sam, if we interpret it and apply it correctly, that solves our problem.
So my question then is, a little belt and suspenders. Well, first of all, if we reduce the second floor from 70% to 60%, I have a hard time then determining in my mind whether the side setback won't go from 15 to 17 feet or to 25. I don't know how the math works. So I'm thinking that we need to add another dimension, which is a side setback.
Second story side setback.
Yes,
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 second
we're
story.
just talking about second.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't create any harm, I'd be inclined to want to do that.
Okay.
Yep.
The one reservation I have on the side setback is that there is a house on Polo Drive that is at the intersection of Polo and Palm, but it's on Polo. So if you're going south, I wish I,
What color is that?
and you come to the stop sign, and it's a newer house, and it's a very long house. Let me just describe.
Is that Dragus?
No, it's
Across
on
the
left
street
side.
from
On the-
Dragon?
This is on the east side.
On the east side.
Oh.
There's a new house, it's got a,
Is it blue,
um,
or is it the one next door to that?
the next door.
Okay, so it's sort of,
It's
it's,
next to Grant Williams' house,
Bill,
which is a
okay.
one
Yeah,
story.
Bill Wheatsma built that house.
And the back is very long, so if you're at.
This, in other words, the second story goes back.
Yeah, all the way, so if you're in the backyard, you have a swimming pool, the guy's looking right over, I mean, and they didn't put any planning in, I don't know who did put in the planning, but it's very imposing. So my concern about, that particular house was, and I guess we still have the central massing as a tool that we could prevent that from happening. So, maybe I'm satisfied with that. But I think we need I'm inclined to push for a side setback. The front setbacks, I think are fine.
Yeah, on the second story.
Yes, I'm only talking about
Yeah,
second.
so
story.
what sort of what are we gonna recommend in response to the note?
Can we look, I think what
What do
I'd
you
like to
think?
do before we come up with a number,
Yeah,
that we look at the existing second story side setbacks, and then come up with it. In other words, base it on what's actually out there. I mean, take all these new houses that Bill Wheatsman built on these 100-foot wide lots, take the houses that, I mean, there's one house that's been built, take the existing architecture, come up with a number based on what's existing, and then carry that forward.
and
In other words-
it's at least 10 feet in most of the houses that you and I looked at
Yeah.
last year. I mean, the second story is at least on the sides 10 feet back.
From the first story
Sides.
setbacks. In other words, the first story setbacks are, these wider lots are like, well, they're, maybe 20 feet on each side because, 25 feet. And then the second story goes, back, it's a full room width, in other words, because they're the first story wings, and then normal rooms are at least 12 feet wide, 14 feet wide. So the setbacks for the second story are at least 12 feet, 12, 14 feet. And I would say that at least 12 feet would be at a minimum. But if we wanted to do as a percentage, see, that's 45%. That's not, right there, that red area
Interior,
that would be the second story. That's at 45%. That's not much of a setback. I think we have to go more to like to 50 or 55%. But I think we should do it on what exists, so that we have continuity with the design manual, but we just apply a number, so that when an applicant comes in to Rita to build, he doesn't have to use all this sort of more central massing, all this sort of more ethereal type of thing. You can just say, it's 50%, or whatever that number is, and you don't have to have an argument. You don't have to have a discussion. It's just, it is what it is. It's based on the existing architecture, and that sort of keeps the continuity of the design manual. We just put a number to what already exists.
We'll come to a point where the maths sort of say that if you've got 33%, where you physically take it down so much that you can't reach the 33%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely correct.
I'd like to, I mean, it's sort of contrary to what everybody else is thinking. Well, I don't know if everybody's thinking, but I'm comfortable with the amount of space you can have on the second floor. It just has to be contained. It has to be centralized. In other words, I don't think.
Yeah, but here's the problem I have with centralized, I mean, just to take the extreme, if you allowed 90% on the second floor, then there wouldn't be any setbacks on the side.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And 70 still is a lot of the first floor. So I'm not sure you're getting enough setback. I'm in favor of, yeah, maybe one accomplish the objective, meaning, do you really need a reduction of the FAR on the second, along with a setback on the sides of, let's say, 15 feet? I mean, one, maybe only, if you set back, we have centrally located, further that it goes to 15 feet on the sides, you're probably getting something less than 70 feet anyway, I don't know, 70%. I don't know. You follow my thought process?
Yeah,
And
no,
I know what you're saying, it probably is less, but.
Well, it depends
It's
on
not
the lot
as clear
size too.
I thought it was interesting that we had an architect who we admire his work. He's worked well with the town, and he proposed, he thought 70% was high. He thought we should reduce it.
This was today.
And Mr. Witz, yeah, he absolutely said that. I wrote it
Okay.
down.
Oh, got it, oh, good, okay.
I heard, we all heard that.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
So, in any case, do we have a proposal we want to make with regard to one or a combination of FAR on the second floor and actual quantitative setbacks on the side, front, or back? Does anybody want to make a proposal?
Can I make, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Generally, I think that codes should evolve slowly over time rather than, and that whenever things get done hastily in response to some problem, there's always that sort of unintended consequences that, oh, we didn't think of that, when we go and start making changes.
I just so you know, certainly, I think the mayor and the town council, and I think other members of this board have thought about this in the past, and so it's not a new subject. We're not rushing to a
It's only
conclusion.
new to me, I
Okay.
acknowledge that.
Okay, and I think that the wheels turn slowly when we make some of these changes, and the next meeting, who knows, it may not be a next meeting if there's no, well, we could have a meeting just for this item. So to the extent that we can address an item while we're here, I prefer to do it, but I don't want to rush the judgment either.
I personally would like to hear from more architects. I'd like to hear people who do this for a living, whose job it is to take the code or the design criteria and try and be creative with it, and I'm not sure that I buy into central massing as being inherently desirable. I mean, I've seen structures that almost have perimeter massing with a courtyard in the middle. Now, that might not fit in Gulfstream, and it might not fit on the lot sizes that we have at the moment. But I'm not sure that central massing is, by definition, necessarily a good thing.
Well, again, we're talking about two specific districts. And if you talked about some other districts,
Oceanfront,
that
Ocean
might.
West.
So let's just focus on these two districts, and I don't want to discourage a new member's participation. On the other hand, I want to, to the extent that we can make some decisions now, I prefer to make decisions, but we can move it down the road if we need to.
Well, and again, what was the impetus for this?
To discourage the continued building of two-story houses.
And also,
To
well,
discover if there was a way to do
If
Well-
there was a way of limiting the two-story houses. However, the community has become younger, which would mean more children and therefore more requirement for room, which has been something that has enhanced the
And
two-story house.
the other thing I would add is, if you walk down Polo, and look to the left and the right, it's predominantly one story. Then close your eyes, walk back, and have all 2 stories. And tell me whether you maintain the character of that core district.
Well,
And I mean, that's,
it's a community that was developed in the forties,
60s.
fifties, and sixties. And, you know, we're, the economic reality of the world and Gulfstream's place in that world has evolved too.
sure, no, I'm just,
I think that as time goes forward, we're gonna see more two-story houses in Gulfstream. The question is,
Yes.
how do we allow the property owner to do what they want to accomplish within reason, but maintain the aesthetics without getting, you know, it looking like you're going down an alley or something in Manhattan.
That's the
I mean, you know,
yeah,
where everybody's pushing out and building up and.
I think you hit it on the nose, that's it.
And if you take that and you look at these different planes in different directions, you look at the different planes and how they are broken up.
Yeah, I
That-
personally
that
like
adds
to have some vagueness in the code. I would prefer to see,
Please don't use vagueness.
maybe vague is not the right word, but.
No, I know what you're saying, that's what
Interpolation.
latitude, but see this massing, this is the problem, this massing, because we have, a house that was built on Gulfstream Road, that it just towers, when you go down the street, it's this towering thing, it completely alters the character and the nature of the town, and that's what the citizens of the town specifically requested, that we maintain the character of the town, and that's what we're just trying
But
to
we
do.
agree, I think, that when that house was built, designed and approved, the process, that it conformed to the letter of the code.
Well, no, but it didn't, what we're saying is that we made a mistake, and it didn't.
it did,
And what was the mistake?
it wasn't centrally,
The centrality of the
The second
second story, but it slid by because the code did have a little bit of wiggle room in it, and
If you can
and
get
it was
clarity,
it
it's
was
better.
overlooked.
And then we had 2 more houses proposed that were rejected at the commission level, but they were way too massive. They were, I mean, the overall square footage of the houses wasn't too big, but the second stories went practically out to the very outer edges of the property and would have stared down the neighbors. The neighbors would have been looking up at this, you know, at this massive thing. I mean, we had people here in tears over these, you know.
If you just paid $3 million for a house and you go out and you get to look up at somebody else's bedroom, I mean, you know.
Were they looking down? Yeah.
Yeah. or
That's a problem.
Looking down,
That's a
yeah.
problem. And this is the only way that we can come up with, is that you've gotta get that second story, you gotta get the side setbacks in. But, that's why we're sitting here having a discussion, is because we have citizens sitting here wanting to move out of, who are just downtrodden at the thought of having these two-story houses with the second stories going up practically to the side setbacks. That went through the staff level, that went through this level, and it wasn't until the commissioners that it was turned down. Well, we wanna have the tools in place so the staff can, so it doesn't have to go to the commissioners, so that at staff level, that design is taken out.
By the way, the commission turned it down not because of setback, but because the 2 homes.
Of the similar.
Too similar.
So.
And that's a vague rule too.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing too, yeah. But the 4 of the massing was.
So, but we still, if it was only one house, you could have still had a setback issue.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to
So
eliminate.
This is the property that's gonna be divided
Right.
into
Right.
2 lots, and that,
It's on A1A.
yeah, and that is a unique situation, I would suggest that for those things that are aberrations, that are not gonna happen on a regular basis.
We're not, this is not because of that.
It's not because of that, but it's just things. So that's what we have, well, can I make just two concrete proposals?
Yes,
that
please.
we make, and this would also go for, shoot, what's Hidden Harbor? That's, we're talking core, Bassa Soleil, and Hidden Harbor, what is it?
North-south?
North-south district. This also has to apply to north-south, because once again, you have north-south, you have much smaller lot sizes. I'm sorry, we should, I had this in my last presentation, but we have to apply this to north-south too, here and Hidden Harbor, which have very small lots, in my opinion. But anyway.
Is
but
that correct?
Hidden
Is that-
Harbor, I believe, is Ocean West. Is that correct, Rita?
No, I think it's north-south.
North-south. And the
No,
book
no,
is,
the subdivision.
Oh, the subdivision, yeah. The
However,
subdivision.
The other Driftwood Landing, and it is a possibility that it should affect north-south as well. Would you agree with that, Rita?
Probably.
but these are the two things, is that we have to get the two-story sections of the house off the street. And it seems to me that if we have
Off
a.
the side too.
Off this, yeah, the side street, in other words, so it seems to me that if currently we have a 30-foot setback for a two-story structure in the front. Right now, right now, somebody, I'm just afraid, could interpret the code as, they could say the central massing, if they could build a one-story, two-story house and keep this two-story right over the one-story house, and they could say, well, the massing is right over the first story, and have it go straight up by its side, and they could have it all right in the middle.
Now, if I couldn't catch that one, you need to replace me.
But you can have it, but right now,
Theoretically.
yeah, so, I think that we have to make two rules. One is that no two-story can fall within 30 feet of a street, front, back, side, anywhere. You can't have two stories within 30 feet of the street. If we adopt this 35-foot setback, then I think it should go no two stories within 35 feet of the street.
No, I don't think that would work, would it? 30 foot?
Well, 30 feet from the front, 30 feet from the sides. On the
I'm sorry,
street.
what is our front setback in the corner?
Oh, you're talking
30
about,
feet.
he's only talking about, when he says size on the street, he's talking about
Street.
corner
It's
lots.
a corner lot.
The front on Polo, what is the front setback requirement?
30.
30.
That wouldn't accomplish that, would it? You'd have
No,
a
there's
block
a-
in the front.
Sorry?
Wouldn't you have a block in the front if you did that, if you used that terminology? Can it be no closer than 30%
Well, right now
on the
this-
second story?
Okay, so right now, so this is the front of the house, you're looking at the front of the house. The front of the house has to
It's
be
30,
feet back, right?
yes, right,
The side of the house only has to be 20 feet back
if on the street,
on the side. But then if somebody went up with two stories,
yeah.
there'd be a two-story section within 20 feet of the street.
But I thought you were talking front. It
No,
seems to me
this
that
is-
the front would have to be, if you want that step back, you'd have to have it greater than 30%, 30 feet.
Well, I'm saying, well, that's another thing we have to consider is what we want that two-story to be from the street. But it seems to me that whatever the front two-story setback is, the side setback from the street has to be the same. Because right now, you have to build 30 feet back from the street in the front, but you only have to build 20 feet back from the street on the side.
I don't know.
Well,
Follow that.
if you move,
Okay.
if you left a 20-foot on the side for the first floor like it is now,
Which it is right now. This is 30 feet, right? This is it right here. This is 30 feet from the front, but the side setback is only 20 feet when you border a street. Yes, on the
and
first floor.
then, I don't know, is you would have to change that 20-foot setback on the corner side, but you would need to move the second story over.
I'm just talking about the second story. The
Okay.
second story setback from a street would have to be at least whatever, if it's 30 feet or 35 feet, whatever we determine the second story setback to be, it has to be not only in the front, but it has to be on the side too. I'm not talking about first story, just second story.
I'm losing, so let's say you had a 30-foot setback from the front.
Which is what it is now.
And not talking about a corner lot. Are you only talking about corner lots?
I'm just talking about corner lots.
Okay.
This is only just from the street, I mean, this is, but. And then the second proposal, so so no two-story structures within 30 feet from the street or 35 feet from the street. And the second thing is that in those three districts, that the limit for the eve height is 21 feet. We cannot go to 23 feet on these small lots in the core district. And that's
I don't
very-
think that's our problem. I think our problem is two
Let's-
stories, not eve height.
Let's,
Well,
let's,
but eve height, I mean,
let's-
but that is, but, well,
you're
I hate to
right.
say it.
My mother's house on Polo Drive was built in, I think, 1959 or something like that. It's a 150-foot wide lot, and whoever buys it when she dies is probably gonna tear it down.
Yeah.
You know, it's a scraper, pretty nice scraper, but it's a scraper, and they're gonna build something new. I don't know that I have enough insight today to judge whether 21 foot or 23 foot is an appropriate eve height on a house that hasn't even been designed yet. And I'm loath to impose constraints
We already have them.
beyond those that we already have. I mean, we have a set of constraints
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
I'm loath to impose new constraints without looking at it carefully and making sure that we're not gonna step on, you know, step on our feet, do something.
The
some
core has been
unintended
built to 21,
consequences.
the core has been built, most of the houses in the core are 21 feet, I'm just trying to maintain the integrity. This is to maintain what's already existing, we already have 21 feet in the core, I think there's gonna be 2 houses in the core, or 1 house that goes to 23 feet. Why should we allow 23-foot high eaves in a place where they're only 21 foot, or most of the 2-story houses are more like 18 feet, you know?
Well, houses are being built higher
Higher, oh,
because
yeah,
of
that's-
storm surge
Yeah, but we're-
concerns.
Gentlemen, I think it's a subject that should be debated and reviewed further. But today, I don't think it's time, because if we were to look at that, I do think that we need to bring a series of architects back in. And so it's a subject that I don't feel, as the chair of this committee, that we can really come to conclusion. Are we able to come to some conclusion, recommendation regarding
Side setbacks for 2-story.
side setbacks in 2 stories and any reduction in the FAR? Is that something we want to make a proposal on today?
Specifically address what we've been presented with.
Yes.
Well, I was just thinking, I mean, I was just thinking that might go towards the mayor's, I mean, the mayor is clearly trying to restrict the 2-story. And if you, instead of if you just cap it at 21 feet, why not reduce that 2-story? The architects are, if we listen to the architects are gonna want the architects want no limitations. That's the danger of having architects come in. Bill Wheatsman's the only guy who's come in here who has been reasonable. You know, other architects, they want all the massing they can get. So
Well,
listening to
They're
architects
gonna
isn't
tell
gonna
you
get
the
us
pros
anywhere.
and the cons, or they're gonna give us both sides of the equation, and we as
Yeah.
the committee have to make a decision as to what we accept and what we don't accept. I mean,
No
So you
architects
have
can
the
do it.
capability today to, in a condition, lower the eve height from 23 to 21, if you so choose and want to stand upon that decision.
Okay, so we can do it.
Right,
Okay.
So let's leave,
So let's leave that go. Okay.
and it's not that we can't use some of these matters at a later date, but today, I want to make, to the extent that we can make some progress. It's a dynamic situation, lots going on in terms of potential building and so forth, and I don't want to keep kicking the can down the road with some of these things. So, are we able to, would we like to, with the discussion we've had, the input we've had from the public, but also from other members of this committee, make a recommendation regarding 2 items. Setbacks,
For second story.
yes, and the second story, and any potential reduction of the square footage of the second story to the first. Do you want to make any?
Actually, if you're wanting to follow the mayor, you have to determine setback on the first story and setback on the second story and FAR. Seems to me you have those three
Okay, that's fine.
decisions to make.
Okay, so let's start with, a recommendation. Do we wanna change the setback on the first floor?
No. Well,
Okay.
sorry.
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
No.
Do we want to make a
So- Would that be a decision then that you want to recommend that the setbacks in the first story in all districts remain as they are?
Yes.
Yes.
So, maybe, should we make a, I guess we,
I would think so.
oh, yeah, let's just,
I mean,
okay,
Get
let's,
that out of the way.
yeah, let's get that on the table. So, somebody wanna make a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we leave the setbacks as they are stated in the manual at this time.
On the first
On
floor.
the first floor at this time.
Why do we need a motion at all?
It's just a procedural matter and trying to
I'll second
advance
that.
this forward.
Okay,
Yeah, we need to listen to it.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Who made the motion?
Mr.
Mr.
Curtis,
Rhodes.
yes.
Who seconded it?
I second it.
Mr. Rubini?
And you can certainly say, no, you don't agree. That's the great thing.
well, there's nothing to disagree.
Okay, there we go.
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Chairman Lyons?
Aye.
And maybe, Rita, it might be helpful, I know I know I shouldn't be venturing here, but maybe you could start with Mr. Murphy, go that way. Or this be, to help Mr.
So that
He
poor
gets
Sam
some
didn't
idea.
come
Well,
in.
he said
Doesn't get
independent
put
of
on
that.
hot
I'm
seat.
okay, I learned how to swim, you know. Swimming in the pool.
Okay, and then, let's now address, should there be any changes to the current design manual regarding setback on the second floor?
My proposal would be what you proposed, that we have a 15-foot setback, side setback from the first story setback. Well, and this is, we have to be careful how we word it too, because somebody can move, in other words, somebody could move the first story wall in and then go up 2 stories. So do we have?
No,
so,
it's,
so is it because we want to have? I mean, that house is perfect. I mean, what would this is exactly what we want. Because
But do
and
you
it
want
says,
them all to look alike?
and it says the design manual. No, but the all I'm talking about is the massing, just massing.
Well, those are planes also.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that in the book, it says that describing the district is that it's 2-story houses with 1-story wings flanking. That is in the language. I didn't get it quite right, and I think that what we should do is that the second story setbacks are 15 feet back from the first story walls. I don't know how, not the setbacks, but how.
You're trying to make sure that you do not have one straight wall up.
Exactly,
And
yes.
the way you do that is by limiting the percentage
Okay.
on the second floor rather than.
Well, I think that
Why don't
Chairman Lyons
you
came up with
just
an
say
excellent-
what result you want and not put any numbers to it? Make known how you
Your point.
how you want it,
We want
and
to
then let somebody that knows how to do those percentages.
Centrally mass,
and
centrally massing
figure it
is the
out.
key to this.
Yeah, but
But I'm saying that doesn't limit the width of the second floor.
But it
because-
does if we
Yeah.
reduce the FAR, because you physically,
But see, you can keep it spread out this way. You can take in, but if you reduce the FAR, see that's where I'm a little bit loath to reduce, but I'm going to go along with it if everybody wants to reduce the second story FAR, the amount of ratio. But you can just push it. You could make it 5%, and they could just have a little strip, 2-story strip right across the front, and that's what people want. That's what the architects want to design for people. The developers want is they want the biggest. That's the thing. When you get a developer in, they want the most imposing looking house that looks like it's worth $10 million. They don't want something. They don't want to build something that's.
So you can have side setbacks from the first floor, and then you don't have.
Well, except that we're saying don't do side setbacks. I think we're just relying on central massing.
I think that when you start tinkering around with what that measurement should be at different locations and on streets, that you
That's
are
all I
opening
believe is
yourself
law.
up to problems. I think that 60% rule or whatever rule you want to make would accomplish the task.
Okay.
It has to reduce the setback if it's 60% massing. But the design, you could still have that wall, but that general rule has to be brought to the surface on my review, on your review, and the commission view.
Mr. Chairman, can I have permission to leave? I've got a plane to catch.
No, you,
we still have a,
We have depositions beginning at 12, and I see a court
I'm
reporter
sorry.
coming in.
Do we still have a quorum to make a,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
You would
Three.
have 4, right?
Okay.
And that's
Three
all
is
you need.
fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good to see you.
have a
Sam,
good
welcome
trip.
to you.
Look forward to working with you.
I suspect I'll see you.
Oh, yes, you will definitely see me.
What did,
Nice to see you.
what did you do while I was gone?
We
They
told
let me out
everybody
of the room.
It's all done.
I should have left sooner, shouldn't I?
I have a small plane to catch.
Okay, so, the town managers, made a suggestion or an observation that this 60% if we reduce from 70 to 60%, we would accomplish meaningful setbacks.
Potentially accomplish,
See, that's the thing, potentially,
Well,
because
because you have to pick it up on the general design, given the freedom, give the architect freedom. But if you have this wall, which we all now recognize and hate, then you use the 70-66 generally on form.
okay, so
But-
we're gonna stick with that. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's
We've got the safety net.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
And that's, I think that's the good point. You got the safety net in there if you need it. I'd be slow to change numbers, you know.
We don't have any number on the second story.
But you really do, when you say 70% of the first floor. You have a number, and the thing that also comes into play is, particularly on small lots, is that FAR. They're all plain. It's when you have an abnormality as it relates to walls, and a plane that has no breaks in it.
Here's my fundamental question. You obviously know this code and the mechanics of how it works very well. When a two-story home is constructed, I want to ensure that it's not imposing on the private use of the neighbor to the sides. And to the extent it gets pushed back on the second floor, because we have good setbacks in the front and in the back. So it's on the sides that could really interfere with someone's use of their home. And I just want to make certain that
Well, help me out, Rick. On a recent
You follow me?
application, I follow you, but on a recent application, we had a top floor coverage of about 50%. This is Richard Jones. They went all the way down to 50%. And he used that argument. Well, it's only 50% of the top floor, but
15%.
whatever it was, but it was very low. I don't.
yeah,
But
15%.
it still created.
this wall.
The wall,
Uh-huh.
see, that's the problem with reducing the second story, that ratio.
Yeah.
That's
But
percentage.
if we, you know, if we reduce it to 60% married with the central massing, then we accomplish.
But how do you
Yeah.
describe,
I
how do
think you need to realize that let me suggest this, that Mr. Randolph has repeatedly stated to board members that you can place conditions of approval on any application. It is perfectly okay. it's how well you are able to spot a poor design that you have confidence and will stand on the decision to place that condition upon the approval. You
Okay.
have quite a bit of power or authority
So
as it relates to
hypothetically,
placing conditions upon an application.
hypothetically, we go back to this property that was only gonna put 15% FA on the second floor, 15% of the first. And they wanted to put it on the side, all on the side of the property. We could say then, no, it isn't consistent with the central massing. It has to be pushed to the,
To
to
move it at
the
least.
central part of the building.
Do you agree? I agree with that. Do you agree, as a condition of approval?
Yeah, I'm just a little concerned, and I don't know what to suggest. The word central leads me to believe, if I was reading that, I would say that's exactly in the middle.
Yeah, and when you say that to me, I see a barn in Iowa. Barns all over the place with it.
They have central mass.
Yes, beautiful looking, but you've got that consolidation of mass on the second story, right? Symmetrically located.
But if you have a 150-foot or
You gotta get
even
flexibility.
wider lot, you could have a second story on two wings and a lower level in the middle that perhaps had a courtyard and,
We've seen
which is
these
not
things.
exactly central massing, nor is it wedding caking, and I just, I would think that we ought to get input from professionals before we make changes.
Yeah, but the professionals are gonna give you, if you bring in
You get a
architects,
bunch of them.
they're gonna all want to
We've
be able to
done a
build
lot.
all
We've
the way.
been through that
We've been
before.
through it with various architects,
This
and they
is-
all wanna build all the way out to they want the full envelope, they want it all. I mean, that is just, if you bring in an architect, they want no
Well,
restrictions.
then maybe we ought to bring in that architect.
But
Well,
what,
he was right here.
He was here,
He
he gave you in a short 2 or 3 sentences his recommendations.
Yeah,
Well,
he said just do,
tell
yeah.
me, what's wrong with the approach of reducing it to 60% and the extent that we, at least I believe, the extent that we do not want that second story to impede the use of the neighbor's home in terms of light, in terms of pleasure in the backyard, et cetera. Force the second setback from the property line back to 25 feet.
Just say, see, my feeling, just give the architects a window. We give them a window for the first story,
Yeah.
give them a window for the second story. So you can put a second story anywhere in this area and just have it be, we have a percentage setback for the first story, you give them a percentage setback for the second story. It's that simple.
But-
They can put it, they can move it to this end, they can move it to this end, they can put it right in the middle, but it just gets the second story off the street, off the
You-
neighbors.
They'll move it to the front every time.
No,
Yeah.
but we already give them, see, we already have a 30-foot setback in the front, or 30, well, right now it's 30 feet. So we are set at 30 feet. We are-
I think I got it.
Yeah,
If you have all planes on the second story with a minimum some distance step back, therefore you would not have a block. If you require a step back on all elevations,
except the front.
no, you want a block in the front?
Well, we already,
He could bring all of these things out here. This could have come out, this could have come out.
well, because, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Well, you still, I think irrespective of what the
No,
setback is,
no,
you
Bill,
still
you're right.
have to have.
Step backs.
Step backs, yeah.
On all sides.
And all sides, and you
That's
can't
right.
have a wall.
That's right.
Okay,
That
so
solves it.
Can't build a blockhouse.
Yeah.
If you
So-
say
So
step backs,
so have we covered
on
it
all
in terms of,
planes,
our recommendation to the mayor is we should recommend a reduction of the overall FA, of the overall percentage
Yeah.
of the FAR at that level, and with step backs on all sides.
That's it.
Would that cover it?
But how much is the step back? Somebody could step back 1 foot. What is
There's the
step back amount?
flexibility.
That's
You just,
that's our interpretation.
yeah.
Because this is sort of.
And
what-
with a central mast, we've got 3
Actually-
tools. And we got 3 tools, what we just said. Reduce the percentage, setbacks on all sides, and centrally mast. Does
Yeah,
that?
but the problem is but how much, but they're
No,
gonna argue,
no.
how much of a setback?
No central mast.
No?
You can use that if you need to. I think you just 60% and step backs. Step backs.
Well, that's already in the code, Bill. That's what I'm thinking. Is otherwise,
Yeah, we do have codes. I like to see a setback on the side, at least
Mhm.
add that. From, we have a setback at 15.
What are you saying was in the
go
code?
the central massing building.
No. Yeah, I say, you don't need to mess with it.
No, that's what I'm saying. We don't. But
No,
it's what
But
we've
you
got
want,
to
you want some kind of setback, step back from first to second.
Mhm.
And what that, I think if you reduce to 60% and put that step back requirement in there, you will
Well,
accomplish it.
what is the amount of the step back on the
Yeah,
side?
I don't, just,
Is it one, I mean,
it could be 1 foot, could be.
but you see, 1 foot wouldn't work. 1 foot wouldn't work. I mean,
Okay.
it's not in keeping with the town.
Then a minimum of,
It has to be like, I mean, if you look at the town as it's built, it's, I mean, on all the houses they've won, it's more like 12 feet,
Could we-
15 feet.
what about a minimum of 20% of the first story setback? For example, 15 foot, 20%, that would be an additional 3.
But 3 feet's not enough. We need to have like 15 feet, 12 feet.
But what I'm
10
thinking
feet.
is, could we
That's-
not go down what Hewlett said, just on this last point of how
Oh,
far?
yeah.
So let's say what we agreed, the first 2 parts, the reduced, everything has to have a setback, and the amount of setback. Could we not look at what you were saying, Hewlett, about what actually works? What actually works in the town?
What is
And get that number.
Yeah.
What actually works in the town to date?
Well, I would say that you generally, there's a setback, again, we're just talking a second story. There's a setback from the property line that we have to look at. And then we have the plane of the building, that it's set back also from the first floor. I mean, those are the 2 things one is a step back, or one is
property,
a.
and one's from the
One's
building,
from the property line, and the other one's from the.
from the walls of the
Yeah,
building.
and right now,
The
what we
envelope.
have is a setback from the property line.
Mhm.
So I would suggest that we consider amending what we have on the sides from 15 to something else.
Well, it's actually 30%. In other words, the side setbacks are 30%.
Yeah, or.
And we
it's-
just
it's
made a
30%,
recommendation.
Or minimum.
Of 15 feet, right, so on a 100-foot lot is 30
Yeah,
feet.
but we've already made the recommendation, we're not going to change, our recommendation isn't to change the setbacks, didn't we just vote?
No, on the
Yeah.
first story.
Yeah, on the
Yeah.
first story.
No, I'm talking about the second.
So the second story footprint of the footprint of the building itself, the construction, it's the setbacks from that
From the first story.
footprint, yeah, okay.
So should we have a specific setback for the second story from
Okay.
the sides?
Well, so here we go. We have a building we have a 100-foot, let's take the minimum, 100-foot lot. We have a 70-foot wide building. How much do we want to go? If we go 30%, that would be 20-foot setback, so 10 feet on either side. And that would certainly work, but that's what's in keeping within what's already existing.
Say that one more time.
100 foot, minimum 100 foot, 100
Oh, no,
foot.
but give me the example you used.
So you have a 100-foot wide lot,
Okay, wide, yeah.
you're allowed to have a 70-foot wide building,
Because we're staying with the same setbacks at the ground level.
and then if we use 30%, so the same number, of the building width for the second story, that gives you,
10 and a half feet.
that would give you 10.5 foot, in other words, a total of 21-foot setbacks or 10.5 feet. Well, we're giving the architects 21 feet, yeah,
On the second floor.
on the second floor. So the second floor
And the
setback
first floor, or the first floor by definition was
is 70 feet,
15.
70 feet wide. In other words, you can have a 100-foot wide lot, 70-foot wide building, and therefore you have a, 49-foot second story.
Okay, I got
That's brilliant.
I'm following, I got the,
So-
so, you got the sides 15, the total is 100, okay?
Yeah,
And it's a second floor, what are you saying?
would be an additional 30% setback,
21 feet,
30%, which is
21 feet.
21 or 70.
30% of the 30, right?
30% of the 70.
Okay, is 21.
So you'd have to have a total, so the second story would be set back a total of 21 feet from the first story. So in other words, let's see, so you have,
49 feet.
so I think, yeah, you got it. So you have a 100-foot wide lot. You'd have a 70-foot wide building, and then you take 30% of the width of that, which would be, so that the step backs is, so you have 30 feet off of this, or 15, well, 30 foot of that, and then 21 feet.
This is-
I think that works really well. That is brilliant.
Wait. I thought I heard from Mr. Weitzman that he felt that, 5 feet setback from the first floor was enough.
Wasn't
Should
enough.
be at least 10.
10.
10, and that, and
Yeah.
21 feet, that would be 10, that would be 10 and a
That
half.
gives us that 10 and a half feet.
That is brilliant.
Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm missing it, I apologize.
Carry out your thought, Hugh.
But I want
With
to
your
follow the math.
calculations.
On the minimum setback on a given side, I thought he was saying from the first floor would be another 10 feet.
Which is what?
So, let's say we were talking about a 15-foot setback on the first floor, that means second floor would be 25, right?
Let's see, it would go, sorry, what
Yeah,
was
it's
it?
just-
25, that's what I said, a minimum of 25,
And a half.
that's one side.
Right.
And
So double that, so you've got then coming in, it's 51 in total, if you like, in setbacks, meaning you've only got a space of 49 feet in the middle. That's it.
Which is plenty of room, which is more than some of the two-story houses here. That
That's
is
pretty
very.
cookie cutter if you ask me.
Well, not really, because it gives them room, they can move it this way, they can move it this way.
Not if you're tying both of those setbacks.
But see, the thing is, but that's what we have in the town. That's what exists already.
Okay, taking that geniustic idea, as they say, but could they take, if you like, of the 49 feet that's available of setbacks on the first floor, could they go 48 feet one side, 1 foot the other?
Yeah, no, I think that we have to, I think we have to give some, like we say on a larger lot, right now, minimum is 15 feet. But I think, on larger lots, we say nothing closer. So if the setback from the property line is you have the 15-foot setback, then you have the additional 10 and a half feet, so let's just say 10 feet, so you have 25 feet. Well, I think we could, we could let them shift the second story over to the left or over to the right. In other words, give them window, it doesn't have to be right in the center. We could let them move, say, put a minimum of 20 feet. You have 15 feet, 25 feet.
You're trying to control it, like,
No, but this is what exists in the town. I mean, that's the thing, and this is a brilliant way of addressing exactly what we're trying to do. Now, as we drove around the town and looked at all the buildings, you have at least 10 feet on either, of one story on either side. In other words, the second story always falls, you have the one-story section, and then you have the two-story section in the middle. Not always right in the middle, some moves to the left, moves to the right. That new house that's over on Polo Cove, the one that's just finishing up right now, that has the second story is pushed over toward the south end of the property line.
See, that's,
And that's what we want, is to give the architects the ability to push it this way, not
but
say it
that's
has
not
to be right.
really a lot, 5 foot,
What's that?
5 foot, one way or the other?
Well,
I don't see
no,
that.
sorry, I didn't mean to say 5 feet, but in other words, if you had, if we just went out and drove around the town and looked at what there was, and just made the regulation fit into what
So-
exists in the town, I don't know.
But do you want them all to follow exactly those dimensions?
No, they don't have to follow, they can fall anywhere, they can make they
Yeah,
can
but-
move, they can, right now, they have to follow them at 15 feet. Right now, all the houses that are on 15-foot 100-foot wide lots
That's
are
right.
15 feet and 15 feet.
That's
okay?
right.
So they all have to follow that,
They all have to follow that.
or they choose to because they want to maximise their footprint.
Yeah,
You're
they
right.
can make it
So
smaller.
they go to the max.
Yeah.
Our issue is the second floor.
Yeah.
We've all said that we want setbacks from the edge, even the front. The question here is how much? I mean, that's really what we're trying to address.
And certainly, I mean, if we allowed, so you have a 70-foot wide house, that means our first story, if you allowed basically, well, 59 foot, but a 60-foot wide second story, that's giving, they don't have to make it 60 feet wide, they can make it 40 feet wide. And certainly Mr. Weisman, the houses that he's built on 100-foot lots, that they haven't been 60 feet wide, but let's give them, 50 feet wide. But this is giving them a lot of flexibility. They can make it smaller, they can move it, they can shift it to the left or the right a little bit. And that is what, Rita, what I wanna do is make a rule that speaks to what we already have, not restrict further, but not allow to get bigger. Keep it, build the rule around what we already have in the town. And this is a perfect example. I mean, what he's built here, he has
We want to
a very
give
wide,
up this room.
you can't really see.
Excuse me, what is the timing? Because we really-
12 o'clock, we have
Yeah.
a deposition.
And
we have
this
to set
guy's
up.
gotta set up, so we
so-
need to be out of here in 5 minutes.
I think that's
That's
a
what
great,
it amounts to.
so I
Well,
think,
not more than 10.
So,
I think your suggestion of 30% of the width of the house is brilliant.
Well,
To the
let me
extent of
ask
the
you
second
this
floor.
as a board. Are you ready to send this to the commission, or are you gonna bring
well,
it back?
I'm not.
my goal was
The first
yes,
point.
but the obvious answer is no.
All right,
So
then
I
we
think
take all of this that we've talked about home with us.
Yeah,
And,
I think that's the best course of
We'll
action.
talk about it in June.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a
Okay.
meeting.
Are we, by the
yeah,
way,
there's gonna be a meeting anyway,
okay.
so.
Okay,
Do we send it to the urban designs or anything like that, or do we just want to, I mean,
Is there anything we can do in the meantime
In
to
the
get more
meantime,
information? Right.
just,
Okay.
to
I
solidify
think, to think about all of this.
I don't think it's
I
ready
feel
for
a little
urban
uneasy
design.
about it, like it's a bad idea, frankly, but I don't know. Personally, I will start playing around with numbers and
well, I think we
get
had time,
comfortable with that.
we have time now, all of us, to reflect on the discussion. You know, I'm gonna talk further with Mr. Kent, be sure I understand the formula, how it works. And in our next meeting, I think that's fine, right?
I'm not sure.
Well,
You just said talk to Mr.
Yeah,
Kent. I
the
don't
guy's
think we
allowed
should
to
do
it. Yeah,
that.
discuss it now.
we're not allowed to talk about it.
No.
But I think that.
Well, can you write down
And what he can do is send you
his
a
proposal?
letter to Rita. Rita can have it distributed.
And just show me your proposal, so I can then do,
Yeah, that's
okay, that's good.
the best way, Bill.
Because we need to be able to at least understand what he's
Yeah.
proposal
All the
is,
iteration.
so I'm prepared at the
Just
next
showing
meeting.
the scenarios.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is
okay,
the footprint, they can move it there, this is the footprint, that's what, to show people the iterations of what that scenario
so
provides.
I think that then, with regard to the mayor's proposal, we made a motion with regard to,
FARs.
Leave the FAR alone.
And I think we're making a proposal not to change the setback at the present time, so somebody needs to make a motion.
Okay, I make a motion that, in reference to the mayor's communication, we are recommending not to change the setbacks until we've done further research.
Exactly.
Well, that, I'm not sure you need a motion on.
We don't need a motion.
Okay.
So we're just not gonna take action.
Well, but our response to the mayor
Yeah,
is.
we've addressed both points in his,
Yeah, we need to tell them what we're gonna be doing, I think.
Well, you're not finished with.
but that's what we're saying.
Okay. Well, however you communicate, I don't know whether, is it a motion or not a motion? I don't.
To defer all of that? I mean, I don't think you need a motion to do that.
No, but just to communicate to the mayor that
To
we're
the mayor that-
continuing the discussion. In other words, that we've spent. what,
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
We-
responding.
We can do that.
In
Yeah,
a
Rita
minute.
can, Rita can just, yeah,
Okay.
wait for a minute.
Okay, fine. Last thing,
Election.
election, I think let's just,
somebody needs to make a motion, who's gonna be
Oh,
chairman?
Okay, I elect Mr. Lyons as chairman of the ARPB.
And you recommend, can I second that?
Yes, you can.
A motion for, the vice chair,
Who's the current vice chair?
Tom Smith.
Tom Smith.
I would make a motion that we re-elect Mr. Smith as the vice mayor of the, vice chair of the.
Okay, I will second that recommendation that Tom Smith's.
Okay.
I,
Aye. Mr. Keith,
Aye.
Chairman Lyons?
Do I vote on myself?
Sure.
Oh, this is on
isn't that a
Tom Smith.
conflict of interest?
No, no,
This is on Mr. Smith.
it's all right.
Oh, that's right, no, it is him too. Oh, sorry.
So for all of you, right?
Yes.
They're all ayes
They're
on
all
both.
ayes.
Just as long as it's not me.
I'll fix
And
it.
together we are we.
Good luck with
Okay.
that
Thank you.
position. Oh, sorry, sorry.
Well, it's not me, it's,
Sorry.
we have others, but I'll sit in on all of them.
Yeah, sorry, Paul.
Oh, yes, if there are no other matters to discuss, staff? No?
Right,
Our meeting's closed.
adjourned.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you so
You
much.
do a heck of a job with that gavel.
Well, I learned that in very good.
Now,
Did you download this onto the computer?
Sorry.
Okay, I'll
Did you
stay.
down? Huh?
Yes, I put it on the computer.
Okay.
It's right here on the front page.
there's
What
no
are the
need
positions?
for us to retain